The Supreme Court has just ruled that a state like Colorado cannot take a presidential candidate off of the ballot just because they claim that it was a supposed insurrection, wherein Donald Trump hasn't been charged with anything of the sort. There has not been any charges in regards to insurrection, but Colorado's like, you know what, screw it. We do not like the orange man, so we're just going to remove him from the ballot. This thing really hits home with me because I am originally from Colorado. I was a 5th generation native of Colorado. This is going to be my first video on here. It's time. It's time to speak up, guys, and hopefully I can motivate some of you out there as well too to speak up, because our voices are getting trampled by these mainstream medias, these far left tyrant media sites, and we need to make sure that our voice is heard. We need to make sure that we are talking with people, having that conversation that it seems like it's just gone away. If someone doesn't agree with the same stuff that you do believe in, then why aren't we talking to them? Why do they believe in that in the way that they do? Majority of the time when I am talking to these people, the fact of the matter is they do not have the facts. They do not know what they are talking about. They are just listening to this garbage coming out of the mouths of all these mainstream media peeps, and we just need to make sure that we are speaking up. Let me give you a quick backstory. Like I said, this is my first time ever recording on this channel. I'm great to kind of be here. This is a passion of mine, truly. But let's go back to when I was growing up. So I grew up in, I'd say, lower middle class family back in Denver. Actually, it was on a suburb on the outskirts of Denver metro area. And I was raised by my mom. You know, like I said, my parents were divorced before I was even born. I had a father who was a contractor, did a lot of remodel work, and I had a mom who was a house cleaner. My mom decided to be a house cleaner because she wanted to make sure that she had a job where she could be home when we got home from school. Like, being a mom was her #1 priority, and she made sure that she had a job to be able to do that. And so I grew up doing this. I was taught those great values of, you know, hard work, persistence, making sure that you manage your money well. You're not sitting here blowing everything out of debt. And so this is how I was raised, with values. I then joined the military. Initially, I joined the military because I was like, you know what? I want to get my school paid for, my college paid for. And so I did get into the military, just the National Guard. And I was like, it's fine. I'm only have to do 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. This is no big deal, going to get college. But then I was deployed. And when I was deployed, guys, so growing up, like I said, I had a father who watched Fox News. My mom, she was kind of really not into politics at all. And so I'd say I was raised conservative, but then I have my mom's side of the family. Even though my mom wasn't really politically driven or talking about news or anything like that, I had a grandmother who was, you know, always talking about how great Bill Clinton was. He was the dude. He was the one who was going to be the savior for the country, all this crap. So I was kind of hearing it from both sides, where I had the conservative father. My mother's side was more the, you know, the liberal, the left-leaning side of things. So when I was in the military, found out I was getting deployed, went over in Iraq, served my time. But when I came back, you know what? I was only 21 years old. I wanted a fresh insight into things. I want to be like, you know, this is how I was raised, but I want to be the one to choose what's going to happen, you know, in the future, or I want to be the one to make my own decisions, not just base it strictly off of what I was taught kind of growing up. And so, I mean, this was 2007. This is right in the middle of, you know, Obama when he was running for president. I was like, man, who is this guy? I'm going to kind of look him into a little bit. Maybe I need to expand outside of this kind of this echo chamber that I felt like I had been grown up into. And I legit like looked into the whole Obama thing. McCain, I wasn't like a huge fan of him. I'm like, you know, he's kind of wishy-washy. I feel like he's just another politician. But I really did dive in deep, and it really did instill my conservative values more than ever, where I was like, you know I am a true conservative. This is what I believe in, and this is the candidate who's best going to do that. I'm not one of those types where I'm like, third party, this guy's awesome, I'm going to vote for him, because she's literally just throwing away a vote. I want to make sure that my vote counted. So of the two that were, you know, most likely going to win, I wanted to vote for the one that just had my principles. Even though it wasn't 100% of what I believed, they held my values the most. And so that election happened. Obviously, we know where that ended up, with a 2-term president of Barack Obama. Had that going forward. And after this whole thing with the election, Obama was doing a bunch of stuff that was just pissing me off. I mean, the Affordable Care Act and all that just blew my mind that went down. I really started getting involved into like talk radio. I remember like listening to Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, all these guys, and all I did was take it in. At the time, I was working a job where I was driving quite a bit. All I did was listen to talk radio, and then I got up into a point like 2013, 2014. I felt like it was kind of taking over my life. I felt like I was angry all the time, that I was always just focused on all the bad stuff that was happening in the country. And so then in 2014, I took this hiatus where I was like, you know what? I'm going to completely just eliminate all politics, talk radio, everything from my life. Just live in that ignorant spot that so many Americans I feel live in right now. And I was like, this is awesome. You know, I don't really know about all the bad stuff that's happening. I'm not listening to the news. I'm constantly hearing family members come up to me and they're like, oh, did you hear about this and this? And I'm like, nah, actually I didn't, because I don't listen to any of that stuff. And then it wasn't until the 2016 election started coming up that I started diving in a little bit deeper. And it's actually the first time I heard of, like, you know, Dan Bongino. He kind of rose up to the scene and all that. I started getting a little bit more, and I was like, all right, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to start listening to this stuff, inform myself a little bit better before this 2016 election. That way I can make an educated vote when the time comes in November. And then I just kind of drug me back in. This, I think, listening to politics, listening to talk radio, reading news articles has always been a true passion of mine. And so I started doing that, and it got to the point where I was kind of, I'd say, back in the same scenario, but now I had kids, I had a wife, I was married and all this stuff, and I felt like that was the joy that I was missing in the first place back when I was listening to the politics in the early 20-teens. Now that I had this joy, it was able to kind of pull me out of that, and it was more of a passion where it's like, listen, I want to make sure I inform myself as much as possible because I want to know what's going on. I got a wife, I got kids that I have to look over now. I need to make sure that I'm making the right decisions. And so this is kind of where it all spanned, where now all I do is literally I just read articles all day long, to the point sometimes my wife's like, all right, can we take a little bit of family time now and kind of hang out? Understand everything that she's kind of saying, where it's like you need to make sure that you are still present with your family, but at the same time, it's still something that is always in the back of my mind where I want to know what is going on. And so it's like recently, my family, we moved to Florida because Colorado pretty much became a shithole. It was horrible. When we were in Colorado, what I grew up in was like a mountain town, right? Whereas Colorado's known for the mountains. Everyone came for the skiing, hiking. Then, of course, you know, weed was legalized, and we were known as like, oh, you're from Colorado, huh? And you're like doing the whole token up thing. And it started getting so bad as the Democrats pretty much took over, you know, the state house, the state senate, governorship, all that stuff. I started seeing all the indoctrination that was getting injected into the schools. Every time that we went to a restaurant, like we see a little boy in pink tights, I was like, I do not want to raise my kids around this. And so in July of 2023, we decided to make the move. We decided to go down into Florida. So now we do live in the panhandle of Florida. Love it down here. So many values. And we actually, I think that when we were in Colorado, our voices they weren't heard. And if we did ever speak our mind, we need to make sure that we were in a tight knit group of friends, of people that we knew that weren't going to blast us, weren't going to judge us. And it was just, so we were always so tight-lipped when living in Colorado, where when we come down to Florida, we're in an area where we can talk about these things, the problems that our country is facing, especially under this horrible of a disaster president, Joe Biden. He's just the worst president by far. Like, Obama was bad. This guy is like 2 times what that guy's doing. It's pretty much, I feel like Biden is pretty much like, this is what Obama wishes he could have done, but he wanted to be a 2-term president. We will see what happens in this election. But anyways, guys, that is a quick and dirty version of this video, like kind of like why I'm starting this channel, where I came from. And so initially, like I was talking to my wife today about this, where I was going to talk about pretty much how I think California is turning the entire country blue. Gavin Newsom, what he's doing is intentional, but I think I wanted to move that video to later on in this week, because I was sitting down talking with my wife about this morning. She's like, you know what? She's like, why are you doing this? Because I do have an underlying fear of, you know, am I going to get attacked? Am I going to get those death threats that so many people who do speak out are getting? Is this going to happen? Am I going to bring this into my family? Am I making my family more unsafe by speaking my voice? And she's like, I think you just need to go out and just tell your story. Just tell your story. Tell them what you're all about. And then after that, really start diving into the stuff that you are passionate about. So that's what this video right here is all about. Moving forward, I am going to be talking about the topic of the day, pretty much the biggest news stories, my take on it, kind of what I'm getting from it. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm some super intellectual, political, whatever it might be. All I want to do is I'm a typical American, middle-class American who I've got an opinion. I've got things that I look at, and I think I do a great job of just assessing a scene and talking about it, you know? And so that's what we are going to do on this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Like I said, I'm looking forward to starting this up. It's going to be a cool little journey, and I'm glad that you were doing it with me. So stay free out there, guys, and I will see you next time.